This is the Player 4 Podcast. Join us each week as we talk about video games, entertainment, and pop culture, and bring in guests from the Rooster Teeth community. Player 4 has entered the game.
What's up, cats and kittens? It's time for the Player 4 Podcast.
Player 4. No, not that again. Hello, I am Tristan, a.k.a. Shagrasir, on the Rooster Teeth website.
I am Alex, a.k.a. Chaos Black 21.
And I am Malachi, a.k.a. Suki Kiba. And today we have a special guest.
I am James, a.k.a. Widowmaker 303.
Welcome to the podcast, James, a.k.a. Widowmaker 303. You are here to replace Joseph Dunlap, a.k.a. Jay Dunlap, who couldn't be with us today.
No, why'd you put his last name in there?
Because it makes you upset.
Even when he's not here, he pisses me off.
So basically on our podcast, we like to talk about pop culture, video games, movies, comic books, whatever kind of comes to mind. And lately, we've been doing a little mini-series where Malachi will tell us about the last season of Red vs. Blue that he watched until he catches up to season 14. So this week, Malachi has watched season 10 of Red vs. Blue, so he's going to tell us a little bit about that. After that, I know that James and I were discussing some of the new Massachusetts legislation on guns and the frustration that has been causing, so I figured we'd share some of our grievance with the podcast on that, because I know that we both have a bunch of information on that. Beyond that, I don't have much planned.
Embrace the tangents.
Well, we'll embrace several tangents. So, James, feel free to ask any questions at any moment that come to mind, tangent off into anything that interests you, especially during the discussion of Red versus Blue. If anything's confusing, just ask the question. Don't think you have to sit and listen.
Fair enough.
Alright, so Malachi, you watched season 10 of Red vs. Blue, correct?
Yes, and actually there was quite a bit of content. It's actually really hard to remember all the little itsy-bitsy moments throughout the show because it's gotten bigger.
It has. So, compared to season 9, how did you feel? Did you feel like there was more going on, or did they kind of focus down? What happened?
There was a lot going on. It was pretty much wrapping everything up, trying to tie up all the ends and come to the conclusion of the freelancer little saga thing.
Right. So season 9 introduced us to all the freelancer backstories and told us who all the freelancers were. So that was telling two stories at once.
It was actually a bit of 8 had stuff about freelancers too, but 9 had the main focus, and then 10 kind of finished it up.
Right.
But yes, you were jumping back from present and past throughout the whole season 10. And also, which was interesting though, is they used 2 different animation styles for each representation.
Right, so the kind of the present day stuff with the Gulch crew is usually machinimated using the game, whereas anything to do with the freelancers was
whatever the style that they were using.
Yeah, the Poser and Maya combination that Monty Ohm used. So how did season 10 start off? Where did 9 leave us exactly?
9 left us where we just got to see our good old friend Carolina just walked in.
Carolina, she's the teal freelancer, not Tucker.
Yes. The teal female freelancer, which I was surprised at the end because I did not expect what she actually was. And kind of you want to punch the director too for it.
The director manager.
So before we get to that, what was kind of the focus in this season?
The goal through the whole season was to get to the director, and in the beginning it was to kill him. It was pure revenge.
This is not the director of Red vs. Blue that you wanted to punch. This was the director of the
freelancer. Yeah. Well.
Okay.
Yeah. Well.
I mean, he is the director too.
Well. Yeah, they want to off the director because of all the crap he's caused. So the main focus with the present group was, of course, the whole going through and trying to track him down or where he was. So they were following Texas's trail that she left. where she was at to try to find out where the director was.
Okay.
And then the past was about the tests and experiments they did with the freelancers and the origin of the AIs and exactly where all that came from, and more in depth the effect of the AI on each person and just what the director was doing.
So this is the one where they went into who the alpha was and where all of the other AIs came from then.
Mm-hmm. And also, it's kind of weird. They never actually showed an image of it, the thing that was inside the artifact. The alien that was inside the
engineer.
Was that what they called it?
In the Halo books, you learn about them. They aren't shown in the games. I don't know, did they show them in the later games?
Yes, they're in Halo 3 ODST. Yeah.
So they're canon to the Halo story?
They're canon to Halo. Yeah, actually, James knows a lot about the engineers.
Yeah. You do see them in the game in Halo 3. They're in that game. The brutes use them as kind of floating bombs / shields. They are used essentially to fix and maintain all the ships for mostly the Sangheili, because the brutes are considered lower class and don't get a lot of the benefits that the Sangheili get. Generally, the brutes get the Yanmei as their maintenance crew, essentially. But the engineers are pretty heavy in the lore, and you do get to see them fight them and actually help one of them in ODST.
That's cool. Yeah, so one of the engineers was trapped in a box that they were using to... Well, after they broke the AI, they would fix it to get their fragment.
I had forgotten that they were using the engineer to do that.
Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to
So what did they do? What do you mean they broke the AI? What do you mean?
The copy of the director, the alpha.
But I mean, why were they breaking it?
Oh, well, he was trying to...
He was trying to make fragments of it because he could only get one AI.
Yeah.
But
I forgot.
to outfit all of his soldiers with AI, so he decided that he would fragment the AI into pieces and give each person a piece of the AI.
Yeah, but there's a reason behind that also. If I am remembering correctly, it was to try to recreate Allison to try to bring her back, is what he was doing. He was trying to bring her back to life as an AI.
Yeah, he tried to utilize this same technique of fragmenting the alpha to recreate Allison, which was what led to the creation of Tex.
Yes. One thing about Caboose, when he says they're talking about personalities, and he was saying he wrote his name inside his helmet with his tongue.
That's impressive.
So I really like that comment. And there was another one. There's so many funny jokes throughout it, just little bits and pieces that were really good. That it's hard to remember them all because it was like almost 3 hours long with all the episodes put together.
Yeah, season 10, I believe, is the longest of all of the seasons that are out.
Well, it's because they were trying to wrap everything up.
Mm-hmm. Do you think they did a good job of wrapping it up?
Oh yeah, and well, they surprised me with the end. I did not expect that, and the way they did it too was kind of, they leave you hanging a little bit, like, really? Is that what I think it is? And then later they confirm it with Carolina's comment at the very end, which was the director. They finally got to the director in where he was hiding, and he took off his glasses and he had green eyes like Carolina did.
Mm-hmm.
And at first I was like, no, that can't be right. Really? You do this to your own dog?
So they must be brother and sister.
Yeah, totally.
And then she made the comment at the very end that my mother was not very fond of, or they told me never to say goodbye, and just that if you never say goodbye, you're never really gone.
Yeah.
And that was what the AIs said to each other when Tex met Alpha's kind of broken up self, and then at the end when Church stopped all the Tex robots in the director's base and talked to the fragment, and she said that she hated goodbyes. So we find out that Allison was Carolina's mother, and the director is her dad.
Ooh, daddy issues.
Yeah.
Now, what didn't Carolina leave the director with an item on his desk before she stalked off?
Her pistol. And he also shut down all life support. And also he ended Phyllis too, which kind of sucked.
No more Phyllis.
No more Phyllis?
No more Sheila.
Yeah. Well, she's technically still inside she's still inside that landing craft in Valhalla.
Oh, so maybe not the end of Sheila. So the culmination of this whole thing was that there was a big fight with the Reds and Blues against an army of techs.
Mm-hmm.
And Church goes into AI space and talks to techs. Mm-hmm. And then Carolina finds her dad and gives him a pistol.
Well, she decided not to kill him herself because she realized, that it wasn't that she needed to let go. And that was what some of the influence of what Church was saying before, and also the data file that York left behind about Carolina because he loved her.
Oh, he did? I thought he loved me. I love York. He's one of my favorites among the freelancers. Actually, I think he's my favorite freelancer. Thanks, Caboose. But I just love... I think it was season 9 where you got to see a lot of York as he was trying to... He was always the guy who got selected to hack his way through doors, and he always failed to break the encryptions on these doors, and his response to this was always to look at Carolina and say, I swear this never happens to me.
Well, he did good in, remember when they first went after the artifact? He did fine, I thought. I thought he succeeded there.
I think he set off the alarm.
Did he?
When they went after the artifact in the tower, I think he set off the alarm.
But he still got it open. He sets off the alarm, but he still gets it open.
I do like the line where they wanted to send a couple people up, so they used Maine as a counterweight, and they attached him to ropes and a pulley, and they dropped Maine off of one of the floors, which carried the others up a couple floors, and they knew that they were sending Maine down toward a bunch of security guards that were there, and I think it was Wash turns to York and says, I kind of feel bad for those guys, because they knew they were going up against Maine.
I believe that Sigma was the aggressive or menacing part of Alpha, because he was pretty iffy. He seemed very evil.
Sigma represented ambition. He was ambition.
Oh, he was ambition. Yeah, I could see that.
Sigma was ambition.
Would Omega be
Omega, I think, was simply instability.
You think he was? Because he was trying to push Tex into doing something to Carolina when they had their big fight after she got the dual AIs.
I can't remember exactly what each one represented. I know that Sigma is ambition. I know that Delta is intellect. Epsilon is memory. What was his name?
Gamma was the computer.
Gamma was the computer, so he was deceit.
Yes.
Okay, were you programmed to lie?
No. I thought you said computers couldn't lie. Such a good scene. Wyoming had Gamma.
Yes.
Who was the kid?
Who was the kid for North?
Was it North or was it York?
No, North had the kid.
South Carolina had the kid.
South Carolina didn't have anything. North Carolina.
Yeah. North Carolina. Sorry, North. I got mixed up.
It's
Dakota. North Dakota.
Not Carolina.
Yeah,
South Dakota didn't have an AI. North Dakota had the kid, and I can't remember what designation the kid had.
Fellas?
We're going to come up with it.
I don't remember.
Theta? No.
Theta?
Theta. It's Theta.
It was Theta? Okay.
Yeah.
Theta was funny. I'm not sure what you'd call that. Just innocence? I think that was innocence.
Yeah, because that's why he had to be with North Dakota to have it, because North Dakota had an innate, nurturing personality.
Yeah, that was right. So there's a really cool story with all the AIs and all of the freelancers, and then it culminates in Church defeating Tex, and what after that? She just stays there, and
she just went to sleep. I don't know if that was
She was very tired.
Yeah.
She was very tired, but she hates goodbyes.
Yes.
So that was the end of the Blood Gulch complete arc, or what is that?
There was at the end was also the switch to the newer games too. At the very end, their armor was way intricate.
Halo 4, yeah. Halo 4 had just come out, and so I didn't realize they'd shown. Yeah, no, you're right. That's right, because they go
back to.
I can't even remember the name of
the new Blood Gulch.
Right, it is the new Blood Gulch. I don't even remember what it's called.
And also
Blood Valley.
Yeah. And also now everyone's back there. Oh yeah, it was kind of funny that Doc actually finally saved someone.
Somebody, no way.
He ended up saving Donut.
00 Donut.
So everyone's back at the new Blood Gulch, Blood Valley, or whatever it's called, and now at the end, Carolina and Epsilon, aka Alpha, aka Church, are now going after a suit of armor, and that's the end. They left to go get leftover freelancer stuff.
Cool.
That's the end. I talked a lot.
It's okay. I had fun. Now we just gotta get James to watch up through season 10.
Yeah, I have no idea what season I'm on. The last thing that I remember was the final scene was in the armor from Reach, I believe.
Reach.
Where Church had found out that he was. It was like I don't know if he died or if he was living in his. It kind of at the end it seemed like he was living in his memory or something like that.
The only thing that I remember that they did in Reach was season. Was it season 9?
Yeah, I think
I may have. Was it? I don't know.
Yeah, well, if you say he seems like he's living in his memory, that is season 9, because that's when
he got captured into the Epsilon unit.
Yeah, that's the only time that they used the Reach, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so then maybe I have seen it all. It's been a long time since I've watched it, so I don't remember all the details. But I remember.
I would say start around season 9. See if season 9 looks familiar. If not, go to 8, and that's easily where you are. You're not under 8.
Yeah.
Yeah. Season 9 was a good one. I really liked when Church was trying to figure things out and piecing through his memories and just basically trying over and over to solve, to get through this challenge, solve his way through it.
I thought that was season 9 because that's what we talked about last podcast.
It is what we talked about last week.
Yeah.
I know.
Okay, so
James and Tristan wanted to talk about their pew-pews.
Yeah, so we've been having some interesting things going on in Massachusetts lately, since James and I are Massachusetts residents.
Interesting is a word for it.
It is a word for it. It's the word I choose to use, because otherwise I'll have to censor myself.
Where's the fun in that?
So, tell me, James, why are Massachusetts up in arms right now? Or rather, not up in arms?
Yeah. Because for the last 18 years or so, the Massachusetts firearms laws have had an assault weapons ban, and everything has been, for the last 18 years, enforced a certain way. Well, last month, maybe a little more ago, the state attorney general decided that, I don't like the way that interpretation is. As of this day, no forewarning, no discussion, no turn to votes, no anything. Now you can no longer purchase these firearms. But it wasn't even that straightforward. It was anything. There's now 2 tests that a firearm needs to pass in order to be legal in the state. It's a similarity test and...
Wasn't it capacity?
No, that was already part of the...
I thought they lowered it further. I know that there was the similarity, which is dumb because these things are designed to be able to use interchangeable parts.
That's what it was interchangeability. So it
was interchangeability? Okay.
Yeah, interchangeability test. So if there's more than 3 internal parts are interchangeable, then...
With a banned gun, then a formerly legal gun becomes banned.
Correct. Or if the cycling mechanism is substantially similar to a banned gun, then it is also banned.
How many of these rifles are not gas-powered?
Exactly. It doesn't make any sense because in order generally, that I'm aware of, there's either piston-driven or gas-driven. And the AK is piston-driven, the AR is gas-driven, and both of those are on the list. So
there are two types of cycling mechanisms, and both of them exist in a banned gun, which would mean that, according to their own interpretation of their law, all guns should be banned.
Right. What? Wait, how is something gas for a gun?
So, okay.
So the way that the AR-15 works is there's a port drilled in the top of the barrel, then there's a gas block that goes over that to redirect it, then there's a tube that goes back and ends at the bolt carrier.
Right.
So when you fire a round, the expanding gases push the round down the chamber, and then when it reaches the port in the barrel, it goes up, back across the tube, and then pushes the bolt carrier rearward, which brings the whole thing back, allows the next round to snap up a little bit, and then the bolt carrier comes forward from the spring behind it, pushes the round into the chamber, and you're ready to fire again.
Oh,
yeah,
so you're talking about this is just like the flow of of it reloading itself.
Right. So the long and short of it is gas-powered means that the energy, the gas, when you fire the bullet, it explodes. Mm-hmm. That is a gas pushing the bullet out the end of the barrel. There is a little tube that takes some of that gas back, and that's what pushes the old bullet out and lets the next bullet load in. That's the simplest way of saying it.
It uses the energy from the bullet to reload itself.
Right. To load up the next chamber. The next round.
Right. The piston-driven ones work similarly, except that instead of using gas through that tube along the top, it's a mechanical piston, and so the piston moves back and forth. So it's generally a cleaner operating type systems because you don't get any of the fouling gases from the unburned carbon and all that stuff in the internal mechanisms of the firearm. But it works essentially the same kind of way. It uses the expanding gases from the round fired to cycle the mechanism and chamber the next round.
So you're saying like guns that are all like this, they're banned? They want to ban them?
According to the way they've decided to interpret it, and what they've newly stated is that anything that works similarly is now illegal.
Right. So pretty much everything has to be single loaded. Period.
Right. So let's take a step back for a second. How did this banning work prior to this reinterpretation? Because we want to make sure that it's clear. This is not a rewriting. This is not a new law. They have gone back and looked at an old law that's been in place forever and a half and said, if we read it this way, it's a little more restrictive.
Yeah. So the original law was basically if a firearm had a detachable magazine and two or more of a list of features, including a collapsible stock, a bayonet lug, a pistol grip, a flash hider. There may have been one or two other features, but
there was a minimum length. I remembered.
Well, the minimum length, anything under any shoulder-fired rifle under. With a barrel length under 16 inches or an overall length under
22, I thought.
It might have been. I don't remember. Usually it's the 16-inch thing, the 16-inch barrel that.
Right, but what I remember about this minimum length was that it precluded you from having a collapsible stock in most cases, because then it was possible to make the gun shorter than the legal limit.
Yes, but that's not a Massachusetts thing. That's a federal thing. That's under the NFA, the National Firearms Act. I don't remember when that was enacted. But anything that is shorter than those size limitations is considered a short-barreled rifle, which you need to go through all kinds of approvals and permits from the ATF, from the federal agency, the ATF. That's even beyond what you have to do for state. Mm-hmm. But in any event, so the state laws had a detachable magazine and more than two or more of any of those features that I listed earlier. So what manufacturers were doing was they were removing the flash hiders or replacing flash hiders with muzzle brakes because it's a different function for that muzzle device.
Right.
They were putting it's a different function. The flash hider's intent is to hide the flash from firing from the shooter so that it doesn't blind the shooter and they can see what they're shooting at for the follow-up shot.
Muzzle brake is to dissipate gases in a generally radial pattern, right?
Right. It's essentially it acts as a brake, essentially, to prevent or to
barrel climb.
Limit it. Well, not necessarily barrel climb, but it's to reduce recoil so that you don't have to deal with as much of the recoil. So if you look at like the Barrett 50 cal, that
right,
muzzle brake
drives the gas backwards so that it doesn't slam you in the shoulder.
Right, exactly. A compensator is what redirects the gases so that it's what am I looking for? It pushes it basically up instead of so that because as you fire, the barrel has a tendency to climb. So a compensator pushes the gases up to try to mitigate that.
Push the barrel back down. Right.
Right. So compensators and muzzle brakes good. Flash hiders bad.
Gotcha.
As far as the state laws are concerned.
Yeah, I just thought that the muzzle brake and the compensator were the same thing. I didn't realize they were different.
They're slightly different. What their function, what their intended use is, are slightly different. Both are for recoil mitigation, but they just do it in different ways. So anyway, manufacturers were putting compensators and muzzle brakes, or not putting any muzzle devices on their firearms. They were doing fixed stocks to get rid of the folding or collapsible stock ban. They were selling with specifically AR-15s without the bayonet lug on the triangle front sight, so that their firearms didn't fall under the definition of an assault rifle given the Massachusetts law, because they had the 30-round capacity and they had the pistol grip, but it was the magazine capacity and only one of those features. All the other features were removed. And since that law was enacted in, I believe, 94, that was the way that things were. That was acceptable. There were 10,000 of these rifles sold last year.
Right.
And that was okay. Now all of a sudden, it's not. Anything that has, as we said before, part commonality or similar cycling function to an AK or an AR or any of the other firearms that are on the list is now also legal.
Right, and so as engineers, you and I are laughing about this because these things are designed to use common parts so that they're easily repairable.
Right,
and
exactly.
Easily maintained.
Yep.
So they're basically using one of the greatest design strengths of these weapons as a means of widespread banning.
Yes. So they recently came out with additional clarification because there were understandably a lot of questions. And so all the new interpretation does not cover any .22 rifles. So the Ruger 10/22 and like the Henry HR7 or AR7 rather are okay because they're .22. But that kind of begs the question. Okay, what about a Smith & Wesson MP 15/22? It's an AR-15 that shoots .22. Is that okay?
I don't know. And
Exactly.
that's going to be there's going to be that for the next several years, I'm guessing, unless somebody decides that this needs to be changed.
Right.
And I imagine
that is silly.
Well, the problem is that somebody's going to decide that this law and this weird interpretation stuff needs to be changed, and they're going to try to change it, and they're going to make it worse.
They should just start banning guns in games then too, right?
Well, I mean, we're at the point where you've got the government is attempting to ban all these weapons, and you have lots and lots of people in favor of this because we've had basically non-stop mass shootings, or things that are at least being called mass shootings. So everybody is on the defensive right now, saying, well, why are these guns legal? Why are they so easy to obtain? And the reality is they're not that easy to obtain. Like, yes, if you have a clean criminal record and all that, you can go in and the same day, even as soon as 2 hours later. But that's assuming you have a clean criminal record and that you have all the licensure required to have this. So, yes, it's easy to obtain these things once you've done all the front-end work of making yourself eligible to obtain them. But that's why the system exists the way it does, is that So for each weapon sold, somebody doesn't have to go through every government database and find out, how many times you picked your nose in the first grade. They've already got the license that says somebody else already found out how many times you picked your nose in the first grade, and they deemed you safe to handle these weapons.
Well, in Massachusetts, that is the case. You do not need a license to purchase firearms in every state.
How many states does Massachusetts have reciprocity with?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 0.
Well, pretty close, too.
Unless you count all those states that don't require a specific license. Like in Maine, as long as you're of legal age and there's no legal reason to preclude you from carrying, you're licensed to carry.
Yeah. So. But whereas that you have a Massachusetts license, reciprocity means that they will accept licenses from other states, and Massachusetts is well known to really not have reciprocity with any other states. Right. Which means that if you want to purchase and own a rifle or firearm of any kind in Massachusetts, you have to be Massachusetts licensed. And you and I have both gone through this process. That was a 6-month process where they did an extensive FBI background check, and you needed references, character references from people who you know and interact with and be able to prove your relationship with them. Yep. So it's a pretty in-depth process to figure out if you're going to be safe with these weapons. But there have been all these incidents, and people are just scared, and the government is capitalizing on that.
I don't know why they trust you with a weapon, Tristan. when you're sitting there and you're just walking up a street, and next thing you know, you get a flaming arrow to the face.
I was trying to shoot Alex.
It's even worse.
So much better.
He left me no choice.
You left me no choice. Why did you kill me?
That's still one of my favorite moments, and I don't know why we haven't made a clip out of that one.
The part that bothers me the most is that it was just one person's reinterpretation of the law. It's basically the government saying we can do whatever we want and we can strip you of your rights, and we don't have to get your okay for that.
It was effectively a unilateral decision, and it was amazingly... It was just orchestrated. They just swooped in and said, we're going to reinterpret this. And there was no discussion, no discourse. Everybody standing there just said, yep.
Yeah, and there's nothing that we can really do, essentially. I mean, the Gun Owners Action League, and I'm sure the NRA are looking into how they can fight this, but the NRA is a national thing, so I don't imagine they're putting a ton of resources into it. And
well, they might, just because it's spreading from Massachusetts. Like, other states are taking the hint that
Yeah, well, I mean, California, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Connecticut, New York, especially Connecticut and New York after the Newtown shooting, their gun laws got really ridiculous. Mm-hmm. There was actually a company, I forget the name of it, that designed an AR-15 type rifle that used an AR upper, but they redesigned the lower so that it was essentially almost like the old Woodstock type firearms, where it wasn't a pistol grip, it was a full up, came off the grip, not just one of those kind of G36 looking buttstocks. It was a legit kind of Remington looking rifle.
Oh, interesting.
It was freaky looking, but that's what they had to do to bring it into compliance with the law. Even that, because I'm pretty sure it used a standard AR upper, that's not an option here.
Yeah, because the upper is several parts, meaning that they're going to have
upper,
at least
bolt carrier, the
interchangeable parts.
Right.
All right, so that's all very interesting.
It is. So I just wanted to finish that story on, why is there such a dichotomy here? Why is this such a polarizing issue? Why do you have the Second Amendment bangers, going up against other citizens who should all, you would think, would feel the same way, but don't? So I just wanted to talk about, if we can sit here and say the Second Amendment states that the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. is clearly being infringed when the government says you're not allowed to own guns.
Yep.
They're clearly, and then saying guns you already own are now illegal.
Right.
You know, how are they able to get away with something that sounds to me like it goes against the Second Amendment, goes against the Constitution?
Because people are, it's, as you said earlier, there's been a lot of shootings recently. There's been a lot of, moreover, I think, media coverage of these shootings, and it's got a lot of people scared. So they're okay with the government putting restrictions on something that the Constitution says should not be restricted. And I've had conversations with a couple of other friends at work where they, like, I'll bring up, well, the reason that the Second Amendment was included in the Constitution was because they had just gone through their ruling body trying to disarm them and taxing them ridiculously and doing all these things while they weren't being represented. And so they wanted to make sure that in the new nation that they founded, everybody had the ability to protect themselves and to create a militia and rise up against a government and resist a government, either our own or an outside one, that tried to suppress them and subjugate them and take away their rights.
So a lot of people you talk to about that would say that people, you know, they include the Second Amendment because people like guns and want to be able to have guns. It's more than that, then, is what you're saying.
To me, yes, it's more than that. It's our ability to defend ourselves and defend our freedom in case either our government becomes corrupt and tyrannical or an outside government, either, say, North Korea or Russia or whomever, or a combination of several, somehow manage to invade the United States. If there's a attack on a major electrical hub, that'll take power down to the East Coast or the West Coast or wherever, a good chunk of the nation. And then you have the opportunity for other highly militarized or effective military states to come in and essentially invade. The United States military has been fighting insurgencies for the last, who knows how long, since 2001. And so they're not really trained and not really very well prepared to fight a conventional war. So plus with how spread out they are across the globe, it would be a very challenging task to push off an invasion from a strong military force such as China or Russia or a combination of the two.
Now, a lot of people would still point at that and say, but that's why we have the military. They're supposed to do that.
Right,
you know?
But people also look at it and say, well, what are the odds of that happening? That won't happen today. That can't happen today. Well, it absolutely can happen today.
Warming can't happen either.
Right.
And the long and short of everything, in all honesty, it's more that our exposure as a society to these things, and it's just that people think they need it but they don't know how to handle it properly, and it gets things to go awry. And
yeah, I mean, if you look at, take any firearm-related incident, and it can be broken down to essentially one of three things. A firearm itself, sitting on a table, isn't going to hurt anybody. It cannot physically go off unless somebody picks it up and pulls the trigger. Now, whether they pull the trigger out of lack of training, out of fear, out of negligence, or out of a desire to do someone else harm, any of those things are all person-related. And you can do things to mitigate them. In Massachusetts, there are laws regarding firearm storage. So if it's in storage, it needs to be locked and inaccessible to just anybody walking by. So a kid can't go find it in a drawer, pick it up, and accidentally shoot themselves.
Or somebody else.
Right. It's also so that somebody who breaks into your house can't, I found this gun in the drawer, I'm going to wait for the owner to come home so I can rob them or do whatever to them. It's all got to be locked up. The required training and required class that you have to take before getting the license is to kind of instill in you that firearms can be dangerous if they are improperly handled, and they go through the golden rules of firearm safety. Don't point it at anything you're not willing to destroy. Keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to fire, so on and so forth. Right. So there are a lot of things that Massachusetts has done that I agree with that are
being ignored in the face of this new interpretation.
Right. Exactly. I mean, like I said earlier, there were 10,000 of these rifles sold last year. How many of them were used in a crime? Not one.
Not one.
They're fixing a problem that doesn't exist,
Right.
essentially.
Statistically, pistols and knives kill more people than rifles. I
Yes.
think knives alone do.
Yes, they do.
So, anyway, there's food for thought. We just stepped our toes into a controversial issue and gave you our 2 cents. We just left Chaos Black. No. We lost Alex. We bored him to tears. He abandoned us.
They got Alex.
They're good. Division references. All right. On that note, I think we're going to call it a night.
All right.
Thanks for coming. Thank you for joining us and giving us your information, James. I very much appreciated it.
Anytime. Have a good night, guys.
Malachi? Malachi? Hello? I don't know what just happened. Well, we got Alex.
There's
back.
Alex.
Alex?
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear
There
me?
he is.
Yeah, but it's not coming through my headphones.
Okay, what happened?
I told you, they got Alex.
Well,
Yeah, apparently.
And this is how they can get him multiple times, because they keep
Oh.
him back.
I think Malachi woke up.
There's Malachi.
Oh, I had to. My mom came to pick up my sisters.
Oh, okay. We would like to end the episode now, so...
Oh, okay. Did we want to mention also real quick? Just I don't know if Joseph wanted to put in there that it's a sad thing that Gene Wilder died.
It is a
Oh,
sad thing
yeah.
that Gene Wilder died. He died on Monday, the 29th,
Yep.
in Stamford, Connecticut, which I was actually passing through on a train on Monday, the 29th. So
Actually,
apparently it's my fault he's dead.
I didn't
Yeah.
get a chance to look up what happened. Did it say he died of natural causes?
He died of just medical complications because he was like 83 years old and had Alzheimer's.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I
But he
didn't realize
never-
what else on it.
Yeah, well, they kept it secret until he died. Apparently, like, he didn't ever suffer, like, the problems of forgetting at least the people closest to him, and it didn't super affect his personality the way Alzheimer's is known to do.
Okay.
So he got off, I guess you would say, easy, as Alzheimer's cases tend to go. And again, they kept it secret until he died, but they, according to the article I read, that was the primary cause of death, was complications due to Alzheimer's.
That's a bummer.
It is.
We're getting that old to where that we're seeing good people go.
2016 has been like the year of dead great actors. We lost Alan Rickman. We've lost Gene Wilder. Who else did we lose?
well, I mean, let's be honest. Every year we end up saying that because there's plenty of actors that end up dying each year.
Yeah.
I didn't say this last year. I think I had one favorite actor die last year.
But overall, like, there's tons of people who be like, oh, 2015, so many people died that we loved. Oh, 2014. It's just next year it's going to be the same thing.
Well, like I said, it's because of our age range that we're in. We were alive to appreciate the films and the greatness of those people, and the newer generation didn't get to enjoy that before they were gone. So.
Poor millennials.
All right, so that's it for today.
Yes.
Alrighty. Good night, everyone.
Hashtag goodbye.
Freaking
Have a good one.
Goodbye.
stupid hashtag. Just freaking fall off a cliff.
It's okay, Dookie Kibo. We still love you.
Okay, we gotta have one.
You didn't think that we were going to get away. You were going to get away without being called that the entire podcast, right?
Maybe. I was hoping. I was wishing.
Oh, silly Dookie Kiba.